Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're here today talking about the Seller Velocity Conference and one of our esteemed, illustrious speakers, Emma Schermer Tamir. I always get that wrong, don't I?
It's okay.
Schermer
You
Tamir.
were Emma Tamir. I mean, I just give people a mouthful, so
Yes.
I can't blame you for getting caught up on things. And I mean, illustrious, that made up for any mistakes in my name. So
And esteemed and
and
celebrated.
esteemed. Wow.
Yes, I'm going to throw in celebrated. So I'm Chris McCabe. I'm one of the co-organizers of the Seller Velocity Conference, May 1st and 2nd in New York City. Some of you already have tickets and you're planning on seeing Emma, hearing her in New York and speaking to her in networking sessions. Others of you maybe haven't gotten a ticket yet. So hopefully after listening to videos and conversations like this, you'll be much more interested in doing so. I'm sure you will. We're talking about what Emma's talking about today. She's going to be talking, of course, you're a listing optimization expert. That's going to be one piece of what you're talking about in seller velocity, and maybe you can riff on that for a couple of minutes, but also you're trying to weave in some new trends, some new strategies that you've dealt with on some of your brand clients, and maybe a mix of kind of do's and don'ts. Is that fair to say?
Mix of do's and don'ts, and also thinking big picture, taking some guidance and inspiration from brands that are really figuring things out. There's just so much more complexity to having an e-commerce business in 2024. To be exclusively on Amazon, most people aren't, just because we have TikTok Shop, we have Walmart really getting into the game. There's so much happening. And so that really requires an up-leveling of skills and strategies to make sure that brands are able to not only figure out how to make Amazon profitable, but how to make all of this work together in a way that is leading towards positive long-term growth for their businesses. And so in my presentation, we're going to be talking about how to really think like some of the most successful big brands out there and getting clarity about who you're selling to, who your brand identity is, and then pulling that all together to help to facilitate meaningful conversation and connection with your customers, to drive more sales, to drive repeat business, to encourage people to want to tell their friends about it, and how to apply that to your Amazon listing optimization effort.
Awesome. Very, very exciting. Looking forward to that. Are there kind of, I don't know if it's new in 2024, recent brand mistakes that you see people making and you're trying to stop them in their tracks, get the wheels turning in another direction? And as part of that conversation, do you say, I've seen other people make similar mistakes and it's cost them between X dollars in potential revenue, so I want to stop you from doing that now and get you to consider my strategy, which is A, B, and C? Do you have those conversations?
So I would say what we encounter most is a little bit more of a strategic and mental mistake that people are making, which is they are dismissing how vital your Amazon real estate is. And I'm not just talking about the listing itself. I'm also talking about things like your brand story and your storefront. There's all of this space that you have at your disposal as a seller to do all of the things that you need to do. And it's easy to sort of dismiss it and say, well, oh, okay, I created some A+ content 2 years ago, so that should be doing just fine for me. Or, oh, I don't know, I'm not really sure that like this piece matters that much. But the fact of the matter is that maintaining a profitable business is really hard right now, and it's getting harder, where the margins are just being squeezed. And so all of these pieces become really vital levers that you have as business owners that you should get excited about and interested and curious about. How can I tweak my positioning? How can I elevate my design? How can I integrate some new imagery ideas in ways that will help me stand out from the competition, that will help me stay relevant, that will help me create connections, and so that you're able to continue to have a profitable business. And so it's really, I think, encouraging people to get excited about and embrace the potential that may very well be within fairly close grasp if you're able to get yourself to be thinking a little bit deeper
Yeah.
about how to do these things.
And demysticize some of it, which makes it less scary, whether or not you're avoiding it because it's scary or you're not avoiding it, but it stays scary. Maybe it can be less scary. And then once you get over that hump, you're more confident with the material, making business decisions around it, but also in terms of bringing in someone like you to help, right? In a universe where there's tons of people offering listing optimization, offering to get your brand recognition bigger on Amazon, bigger on Walmart, on any channel. There's just a lot of information floating around precisely because it's more competitive now and it's harder to make a profit now. Everything, excuse me, everything you just said.
Yeah. And it's also, I think the other thing is you mentioned it being scary. And a lot of that fear comes from, I believe, a lack of knowledge and confidence in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't feel like you're capable of being able to say, this is what good looks like, then it is something that it's going to be easy to dismiss as not that important because you don't have the confidence to be able to say whether something is good or bad and evaluate it and provide feedback. And that's all skills that can be learned. So you don't have to become a design expert or a copywriting wizard or a branding maven in order to be able to understand what your strategic objectives are, how they need to be executed, and then evaluate what is being delivered to you, whether it's someone internally, whether it's even trying to integrate AI into your content creation and being able to better parse out what's good content from AI that's worth either integrating or iterating on or worth scrapping because it's not necessarily on brand, or whether you're outsourcing it to somebody else and then being able to determine if it's of value and going to be working in pursuit of helping you really build and strengthen your brand.
Yeah. And maybe you dropped the AI term, hot, trendy topic right now, but similar to AI content can be good, bad, or everything in between. Discussion of AI and its impact can be good, bad, and everything in between, in my experience as well. Are you planning to touch on that? It's not going to be the sole basis of your talk, of course, but you'll have lots of networking with brand owners. There'll be Q&A at various points throughout the 2 days in New York. So are you planning on having certain answers for questions you expect? Or are those questions maybe still in the formulation stage and you don't know exactly what people will ask you?
Absolutely. That's actually in some ways a little bit of what's influencing the topic that I'm wanting to speak on, because I think a question that inevitably comes up with this influx of AI is we're seeing the minimum viable product that has increased in quality. So you no longer have as bad of bad competition. So perhaps you were relying on that. You know, maybe your competitors had just really sloppy looking broken English on their listings. And so then just that in and of itself was a differentiator that you could use to capture more customers because you had that automatic trust just purely by having proper English.
Yep.
Those situations are less likely, but also AI allows people to produce massive amounts of content, massive amounts of everything. And so we're all sort of trying to keep from drowning in this sea of content and being flooded with it. And so what do you do in that case? How do you actually stand out when there's so much happening? How do you grab attention? How do you create meaningful connection with people? And so that's where taking it deeper, getting curious about the human that you're selling to, being clear about what makes you unique? What are your values? What are those things that are human even about your business that you can use in order to be able to not only stand out, but to create connection in an age of time that we're in, that it's just hard to do that because we're inundated. Even we were talking before we started recording, Chris, about LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
obviously LinkedIn is not Amazon, but it's sort of the same as what we're seeing everywhere, which is
Yeah.
that now everybody can create lots of content, and most of it is just muddying up the feed, making a more negative experience, making you actually want to spend less time on the platform. And so that's the same experience that customers are having. And how do we change that? How do we still manage to be successful in this
Yeah.
changing economy?
Quantity is not quality. It never has been. And it's kind of the same as clickbaity type material. Everyone likes engagement if it's meaningful engagement. But if it's just, I'm going to post a comment which ChatGPT wrote for me, but it's not going to really say anything and I might not get an answer to it, is that furthering the discussion, furthering education or knowledge, or even representing things positively versus negatively? Because if it clutters up your feed and it is overwhelmingly not useful or negative, then people tune it out, right? The same as they do emails or pop-up ads or whatever we're talking about. So,
Yep.
yeah, you do have to stand out. I think the exciting thing for your space and for brand owners in general right now is that if you master the concepts of how to stand out the right way versus your competition now, that'll pay dividends both now and down the road. While
Yes.
some of your competitors are flailing in the wind, maybe latching on to trendy, untested methods that are very short lived and that do not stand the test of time, you might already have a SOP or a strategy or a formula that you can modify as you go or down the road, which is essentially thematically the same formula that pays dividends today. And so that's why, and you can look back with pride and say, I made the right decisions, maybe not everything perfectly, but I set in motion, the right concepts to get this, a growing, steady revenue stream, not just for months, but for years to come.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so much of that goes back to really cultivating those relationships with customers. It reminds me of an article I saw. I can't recall where I saw it. I believe it was just last week. And it was talking about how more and more people are drawn to, rather than company social profiles, to founder social
Oh,
profiles.
yeah.
And to me, that is such a strong indicator of the broader, like, I'm always looking, and I think that this is just a really good practice, even if the only place you're selling is on Amazon, is to be thinking, what are the bigger things that are happening right now? And how can I apply those to my business so that I can, at the very least, be not falling into irrelevancy, but actually a lot of times, even more so on Amazon, you can leverage that to get ahead of your competition. And so when I see something like that, that's talking about the rise of the founder profiles, that is a strong signal that customers are looking for human connection. They want to understand who is behind this business. They want to be having interactions that are more than just 20% off or buy one, get one free. And so they will buy, but they don't need to be hammered in, buy,
Yeah.
buy, buy. They're wanting to have other types of relationships with the brands. And there are many different ways that you can do that. So you don't
Right.
have to be a Dude Wipes or a Liquid Death that have really provocative marketing to achieve
Right.
that. But those are some great
You can show some
examples.
knowledge, and people are
Absolutely.
attracted to that knowledge and think, oh, I align in a lot of ways with this philosophy of business, of product management, of business development, of e-commerce. And then there's an engagement that's already working,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Exactly.
Any other tidbits, teasers for your talk in May? Once again, May 1st and 2nd, New York. Emma will be there and she'll be answering all of your wonderful questions, but she's also going to speak and offer, cutting edge approaches, strategies, and so forth. Anything else you want to tease for what's 2 months away now?
I guess I will just say what I love about the Cellular Velocity event that you put on is that because it is such a curated list of both speakers and attendees, yes, I have some juicy bits to share in my talk, but just as valuable is all of those conversations that happen after and around it. And so I think that people that are looking to really be stretching their imagination, get their creative juices stimulated, learn cutting edge techniques that are working today, trying to figure out how to be able to continue to be profitable or get back to profitability if maybe that's slipping.
Right.
This is an event worth being at, not just because of the great content that's delivered on stage, but because you do get that one-on-one or small group engagement with so many people. And it's not just the speakers. The people that are in attendance are highly experienced people that could just as easily be on stage as any of the speakers, frankly, with the knowledge that they've amassed over the years.
That's what I was going to say. Of course, we invite all of our ongoing monthly regular clients to this conference, and many of them we've worked with for several years already. Established brands, established players who have such a wealth of knowledge that often Amazon themselves will contact these brand owners and say, hey, can you show up at Accelerator? Can we shoot a short video of you and your team? Those types of people that we've learned from, just as they've learned from us in terms of the consulting work and the troubleshooting and, those types of things that we do as consultants. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them and you in New York, and hopefully everyone who's listening to the sound of our voices right now. Thanks for joining me today, for doing a quick rundown of what you'll be talking about in a couple months. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Me too.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.